right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We have a ton to go over in a short amount of time, so if you're new here, remember all of the sources for today's show are going to be over on marfooglenews.com with a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. Powerful tornadoes have popped up all over the place, and of course, people are questioning everything, especially nowadays. Over the last month, we've actually covered a lot of really strange articles, especially from experts stating that they believe that there is a risk in the future we could actually get into some sort of weather conflicts. Quite wild, if you ask me, considering we've been talking about this for years. So not many people are surprised by this, but on the side, just let's go over what's happening today. First of all, prayers went out for Trinity. Just saw a small update that it sounds like Trinity, that you're okay. So I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully that doesn't change. Other folks have been in the line of these tornadoes. I know that we have Fugel family members that are in the line of these tornadoes. So I'm praying for you, and I'm praying that for your safety. As far as lots and lots of updates have been coming out about this. We had crazy reports. Some said as high as like 82 different reports of different tornadoes. But of course, it's changing with the wind. Quite literally. Devastating tornadoes are tearing across parts of eastern Nebraska and Iowa on Friday as a multi-day severe thunderstorm event ramped up in central United States, injuring at least 3 people, which if this continues and if this stays just at that, it will be an absolute blessing considering how many of these are happening. Storms began in parts of the plains and south early Friday afternoon. The National Weather Service had received at least 60 reports of tornadoes at least 5 states as of 9:30 p.m. Eastern, making today the busiest days of tornado in the U.S. for more than a year. Now, one thing to keep in consideration that we had a lot of tornadoes last year. In fact, every year we have tornadoes. But one thing that people are watching out for is the where, the when, the veracity of these and how often they're actually happening. In addition to tornado warnings, there have been 19 damaging wind reports and 45 hail reports from Friday's severe weather outbreak. Iowa governor, of course, issued a disaster proclamation in Pottawatomie County, if I said that right, to Friday's severe weather. In a tweet, the Republican governor of the proclamation was to support storm recovery efforts in the town of Minden. So prayers go out to Minden. Tornado warnings were in effect for portions of Des Moines metro area as of 9:45. Friday, of course, Lincoln, Nebraska, tearing through the roofs of homes off of the crossing of 180 or I-80 in the process. An overturned tractor trailer blown over by the storms brought traffic to a slow crawl on the interstate. In Elkhorn, an area of the edge of Omaha, you, of course, had a very devastating situation after a tornado barreled through Elkhorn. Some houses have been swept and no longer exist. So it sounds like Elkhorn was actually really bad. You had Shelby and Douglas County emergency management officials in Nebraska saying that it was going to get worse and they would just have to wait to see the actual depth of the damage. And said they received no reports of severe injuries from Friday's storms. Alex Londo, Shelby County's emergency coordinator, said that there had been substantial property damage. First responders are out assessing the needs at this time. So from everything that we hear, and again, if you're Fugel fam and you are in the middle of this, again, I'm praying for you. And if you do end up being okay from it and you end up wanting to share stuff with us, or if you have video of how crazy this got, make sure to send it to us. We would love to see it. Hopefully everybody ends up okay over this, but this isn't the end of it either. Over this, tornado season can keep going. So this is the busiest day in about a year, but it could get busier. So hopefully it doesn't get any worse than this. But as far as the numbers, I wonder if we'll see, some insane record-breaking numbers. That's kind of what we've seen the last few years, and they're blaming it on certain things, but others wonder. We'll talk about this and much, much more on today's episode of Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Some folks were talking about Ryan Hall, y'all. Somebody else said something like Ryan is paid for. How does Ryan say anything? I like Ryan Hall's channel, so I does he have a view that's controversial that people think that that's somebody else's view or something? I don't know. I would think he's covering something pretty non-controversial most of the time, which is he shows the radars of the weather and stuff. But I don't know. I've only seen his channel a few times, and it looks pretty high quality to me. As far as who would, I don't know. I guess you could pay a weather guy. If he's saying that he thinks that it's, the world's changing really quick, then I could see that. But as far as what's going on, I'm no weatherman, but I do know that we have had multiple people reach out to us and say that this is really bad. The Trinity, of course, was in trouble earlier. There was a message. Leah actually passed on the message from Trinity, said that it was pretty bad, and asked for prayer. So, tornadoes have been around for a very long time. I told the story about my teacher from Texas that ran off on us during the first earthquake in Nisqually. And it was like, he's even said to us when he got back, he's like, I'm sorry, you guys, I left you hanging. He goes, I've been through like 15 tornadoes and I've never had an issue. The earthquake, he didn't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do in a tornado. So I flipped that on its head and goes, yeah, what would I do in a tornado? I probably wouldn't know. I've never dealt with a tornado. We don't have those here. But we do have earthquakes. So it's like when something happens like this and it's on that kind of scale, it really is insane what tornadoes are capable of. It's really insane some of the stuff that modern day technology has actually caught, because as of a few years ago, if you were so close to one of these giant F5 storms, you were a goner. But they have new technology and they've gotten new videos of these things, and they are absolutely, if you don't believe in God, go look at an F5 tornado. Those things are unbelievable. It makes us feel like ants. It's like if you step on an anthill and kick the dirt, it's like that's how we are to a tornado. It's just like we're little specks of dust to be blown about. So yeah, it's pretty insane what is happening as far as all over these multiple states. You've got tornado after tornado after tornado. Really scary stuff. Dex, have you been? I know you've had tornado watches. During the show you had several storm watches, and you've even had a tornado watch. But have you ever actually? Many. You've been through many.
Yeah, I've had a building I worked in get demolished. I've had the bleachers at my high school get picked up and twisted and thrown right in the middle of the football field when I was there. Yeah, we've had our fair share, but it's different here. Like where I live, it's smaller tornadoes. They're usually not that big, but we have hills. And it's always at night, too, for some strange reason. So you never can see anything coming. And they bounce. Where what you see over in the plains in the Midwest, it's like this long strip. Here, it's like this bouncing effect where it'll take out one house, skip three, and then take out the next one.
Well, yeah, and that's a crazy thing to think about. In the Midwest, where it's super flat, they do see it kind of during the day, but day turns into night. When you're close to one of these storms, it's like it turns it could turn a sunny day, a tornado will come rolling through, and then all of a sudden it's nighttime. That cloud cover just covers you like a rainy day, but way worse. Black clouds just. I've only seen it on video. For you that have seen these things in person, I'm sure it's absolutely terrifying. When you are close to a tornado like that, or if you've dealt with multiple, it's like, I wonder how you would be. I would think you would be a pretty tough person with other stuff if you've been through a scenario like that, or if you've seen bleachers get pulled up like they were, a tin can in the wind. It's like, that's got to make you a tougher person. It's like, at least we're not dealing with that, right? And then if you have video or ring footage from that, make sure to send it to us. Go to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. I'd love to see if you have video, of course, that if it passed you by and you weren't affected. Hopefully, if you got cell phone footage or something like that, send it to us. We'd love to see it. And then Kim Jong-un tested a new rocket that could hit Seoul and may aid Russia against Ukraine. So they're essentially being used as a tool, or at least that's what they're saying, it looks like. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a second set of tests for a new rocket that could be used to attack Seoul in South Korea and assist Russia in its conflict against Ukraine. The 240-millimeter multiple rocket launcher has an estimated range between 40 kilometers and 60 kilometers, or about 25 to 37 miles, and is capable of bringing a strategic change in bolstering up the artillery of the Korean People's Army. It says the weapon is known to have been tested once before in February of this year. According to the defense and security outlet Army Recognition, North Korea can put the whole Seoul area within its shooting range if these rockets are fired from the front line. So that's how close they are, and that's how close Seoul is to some of the main front lines of their artillery. It says it could be meaningful in the exports market, say for Russia, and it could be a useful weapon for the war in Ukraine. And I bet if they end up going to war with NATO, then yeah, Russia could probably use that against some of their neighbors as well, like Poland. Hence, probably explains a lot of the buildup. If we're finding this out publicly, if it is true, and if it's not Ganda, then I bet you intelligence knew this probably months ago or years ago. As far as, I keep saying that I think that it might be a surprise attack from North Korea to South Korea that would all pop it off. But it could go a completely different way. And then Dex, do you want to talk about the catastrophic consequences in Rafah as Israel waits?
So Egypt continues to hold its position that if the attack goes forward in Rafah, it's going to be bad. And the Egyptian president reiterated on Thursday and rejected the displacement of the people there from the neighboring strip as they're preparing for the impending military operation. So Cairo is worried that a planned push into the southern border, the last remaining stronghold, as they call it, in the center of the coastal strip, would trigger a mass exodus into Egypt. So that's a big problem for them because they feel like all of those people are going to come in. And as we've talked about when they were doing a lot of the initial engagement in the strip, they started moving all their military. They, being Egypt, put a lot of their military, a lot of gear, a lot of people up against the wall there, at least deployed them in that area because they don't want, in their opinion, they don't want the people to come through. They don't want them into their country. They want them to stay where they are. So, and they're also the only ones, well, not the only one. There is one side on the Israeli side that has a functional or open transit for humanitarian aid. So one of them is coming from Egypt and the other one's coming, I think, in the southern section of Israel along that strip. But that's it as far as aid goes. So they have a big, contingency here if this goes forward because they necessarily don't want to take in the bad guys, nor do they want to take in all the people that need help because then it becomes a burden on them. At least that's how I'm reading it from what they're saying. So their position is stop. They don't want it to happen. They've said it from the get-go, and they're reiterating it today.
And as as this whole area, as far as there's been so many debates and everybody's protesting all of this stuff, but just like all of these other subjects, it's like a lot of people are 100% devoting themselves to this cause right now, just as they did with Ukraine. But this one's a lot more important to a lot of people compared to Ukraine. But it's like, what do you want to bet that in 2-3 years or even a year from now, if things end up backing off or something goes down, the people will forget about the people there? It just seems to me that there's a lot of people that fake care, or they're doing it to look good on social media, or they're doing it to virtue signal that they care about other people, but yet they'll walk right past somebody that's homeless right outside their business. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many people that are genuinely good people here that are suffering too. Not to pull away from that, but it's like this whole situation. It's like people show that they care when the media shows them to care, but they don't care otherwise. Do you guys get my meaning? All right. People should be caring about people like this, or the innocent kids, or the things like this all the time, not just when the media tells them to. Dex, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's kind of like the days of the UKR flags, when everybody had them on their, profile pictures or in their yard,
Where are they now? Do they care about
exactly.
the kids in Ukraine?
They care about this because they're told to do it.
And there are people that actually, and to those of you that actually care, that there's a lot of you out there too, but you have to understand too, and I bet you agree, there's a lot of people out there that will just do, there's young kids too that are doing this for their social media for views and clicks, saying like, I care for this, and then when they're questioned, there's been a lot of times where they're interviewed, they'll be asked a simple question about it, and they have no idea. They're not actually researching what the actual argument is. They're just saying the slogans, and that's it. If you're going to support anything, you should try to look into what you're supporting and understand it, and understand both sides, and understand all of it. With this, it's not something you just pick a team, and I say that because our current prez, when that errant missile went over, it's like with Ukraine or whatever, he's like, it wasn't our team, it was their team. People pick at it like it was a team. Like, I'm Team Ukraine, I'm Team Russia. It's like, this isn't teams. This is our world history. In 20 years, it could change everything on our planet. This is extremely important. This is the Holy Land, the entire Holy Land. They're fighting over Holy Lands. So, this is really, really important. Look at this. I just noticed the location of the dot. Dex, this is 31111 North 341300. Like, what a weird. Every time it shows the location, I've never seen one with. It's like the same backwards and forwards. What do they call that? Palindrome? Isn't that a palindrome or something? If it's a word. Anyways. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Terry Quinn, thank you so much for your support yesterday. B&B, Donald Massey, and of course, Be Real Beast, Stephen Click, Resistance Homesteading, and of course, so many others. Make sure to thank your mods by going over to marfoogle.com/friends. Make sure to go check out everyone, again, including Leah. Leah, thank you for being there and caring for everybody else. Trinity, of course, has great edited videos. Obviously, it's good to hear that she's going to be okay, or it sounds like she's going to be okay. And then, of course, Wages World just did an update right before the show on some of the crazy solar activity that's going on. So make sure to go check out him as well. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. Of course, you can protect yourself against an EMP strike or multiple EMP strikes and a Carrington level event from the sun. Easy to wire in, about 10 minutes in your car, truck, motorcycle, boats, generators, and even your homes can be protected against not only EMP, but CMEs. Go to marfoogle.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARV. You'll get $50 off, and you'll help support our channel. We are completely on our own, so we appreciate you more than ever, though, just sharing our stuff out sharing us with a person that you think would find value in our show. And again, thank you for everybody that does realize how much work goes into it. So thank you. And then let's do a roll call, and we're going to go over the ship that's under the attack, coast of Yemen, off of the coast of Yemen, as Houthi rebel campaign appears to gain new speed. So we'll go over that here in just 2 seconds. I do want to say hi. What's going on, Rin? Comet Moon, James Garcia. We've got some new names in here as well. Digital Revolution, thank you for being here. Occam's Razor, old school Fugel fam. We've got Mr. Hubo Diggs. We've got Anita Hark from Idaho. We've got London, UK from Enough Already. Steve O. Peacock from Utah. We've got Sandpoint, Idaho. Iowa, Diane Whitlock. So I see a lot of states that are actually involved in a lot of these tornadoes. So how are you guys doing? Nebraska, Jeffrey Woolidge. You got a lot of folks from all of the states affected, so I'm hoping you guys are okay. Oregon, you've got Southern Oregon in the house. You've got California. You've got Rhode Island, Saskatchewan, Coffee County, Tennessee. Nice to see you. Tennessee, beautiful place. And then Baton Rouge, Louisiana, another beautiful place that I would love to go see. J-Girl, that's me. What is happening? It says, we had an earthquake. Where did you have an earthquake? California, Faith Parent. Hey, nice to see you. And thank you so much for being here. And then Mark Matheny from West Virginia. Northern Nevada, Carson City in the house. Nice to see you. Alberta, we've got some Canadians in the house. Let's have our Canadians sound off. Ocean Shores, Washington, Rebecca Rose. That's right. I remember you. I really hope you already know about all the Cascadia stuff. Please make sure to research that. I told you that last time, I think, too. Make sure your city is going to be underwater. Absolutely crazy. Maybe, hey, by the way, I would love to talk to you next time I'm there. I've been interviewing a lot of the people in town. All right. And then, Dex, let's go over the ship. Comes under attack off the coast of Yemen.
So this is actually happening after a little bit of a quiet period. You know, it's funny, they want to say that the quiet period was because of the great success of the U.S. and the UK forces, pushing them back. But I think it's really the event that went down in Israel and the fact that they probably, turned their aiming towards the north and backed off of the shipping. But now that that's over with, or at least subsided, it seems like the attacks have picked right back up in the water again. And the reason it's a big deal is because of the effect that this has on trade and the operations that go through there. We talked just the other day about the plea they made to the UN to get something started to help stop the issue and maybe create a multinational, maritime patrol or something like that would help make sure that they could get passage through some of these areas, whether it's the Strait of Hormuz or more so this area where the Houthis are constantly, attacking ships that go by, because that's going to affect trade. And that's the big deal. So it has picked back up now. So I think this may be the second time they've taken down some drones. They've popped some stuff off. The military's done a good job of, trying to defend what's there, but it's not good. If you're an ocean liner, you don't want to be traveling through the ocean and having to worry about getting struck or hit, or even worse, taken over or sunk.
So, and we talked about how a lot of the insurance companies are dropping out. All the rates are just like skyrocketing. Those rates then are passed on to the consumer, and it's like everything goes up. And the reduction in ships, everything is going to affect inflation, and every part of our economy depends on several of these, different outlets. It's like there's only a few places in the world where, 99% of the stuff goes through, and it's like almost all of them have their separate problems. From the Taiwan Strait to over here, to the what is the other one by Japan? What's the strait by Japan? It's not the Japan Strait. It's I'm trying to remember the name of it. That one had issues, and then you of course have all of the different the straits in the Middle East. It's just like one thing after another keeps happening. Doesn't it seem like it's just like one they're trying to say that these are acts of gods or these just coincidences, but it seems like one event after another is affecting the world's global economy. I mean, it started out, of course, CV destroyed everything, and then one thing after another, it just keeps going into turbo mode. It's crazy. And then with Russia in mind, French carrier joins the drills under NATO command. So France has been actually speaking up a lot about Russia, and Macron has personally said, and he's trying to convince his people, like, hey, by the way, we got to look at this, like, you guys need to stop being wussies. Like, at some point, we're probably going to have to send people in there. He's been setting his country up for them to accept that they're about to have, French NATO members, straight up troops going into Ukraine. NATO in Ukraine means NATO versus Russia. I mean, it's already happening, but like it's getting bad. And this is exactly what all of us thought was going to happen. And people doubted it, but now it's here. It's happening. Of course, the carrier and its accompanying vessels, a French carrier strike group, are the centerpiece of the Neptune strike, a series of drills that NATO says will help its members learn to work more seamlessly together and deter its enemies. The French nuclear-powered carrier began its mission in the Mediterranean Sea, close to the home port of Toulon, placing the Charles de Gaulle under NATO operational control for the first time is highly symbolic. So again, it's a French carrier, but it is fully under NATO control. It's the first time it's happened. It says not least because the warship is named after the former president who took France out of the alliance's U.S.-led command structure in 1966. France returned in 2009, but officials say Paris' interest in NATO exercises and missions increased after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. It says, reflecting a view that more assertive Moscow made NATO more vital to French security interests. The decision put the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier under NATO command, drew criticism from the French, far left and far right, who said it represented a loss of sovereign power. They're basically saying, hey, now our carrier is being controlled by this bigger group. First of all, France, there's all sorts of weird stuff going on there. And if you're watching from France, tell me what you think. But as far as I still can't get over that a couple days after Xi directly meets with Macron, the Prime Minister of France, all of a sudden he says, you know what, we're going to take a few steps back from the USA. What was said in that damn meeting? And then, of course, they had issues and they were trying to add delays to certain things with their NATO power back in the beginning. It's like, what the hell was that? Whose side is France really on? Now, we've always heard like the kind of rumors and the jokes about how French hate Americans and all of that. But right now, it seems like the French people and the United States Americans have more in common right now than any other time. Everybody's protesting. Farmers are going into McDonald's, dropping loads of literal dumps into McDonald's because they're pissed off at their government. They're raising their retirement ages. They're doing all sorts of stuff that the French do not approve of. And I'm looking at the French people and going, right on. You should speak up about this kind of stuff. But as far as the president, it seems like almost every country, they're having issues and nobody is agreeing. You don't have any countries, fully behind their president. Now, I understand that's normal to have half the country this, but it seems like every country is split right down the middle. It's like France and Macron, Trudeau in Canada, here JB in the USA. Everything's a left or far right thing in every country. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was just yesterday or the day before we were talking about Macron as well, and he's gone so far as to say that they don't even need the American security umbrella, or the American security umbrella is a thing of the past, and that Europe needs to build its own credible defense strategy. In other words, Europe needs to stand taller than America, and it makes me think he's doing a power play to try to bring about Europe together and him atop. And that's what I feel, and why he would say, well, let's diss America and look at what we're doing and let's get involved here. Or let's say we can send troops into UKR and ruffle Russia's feathers, because he's playing that role. He's trying to play that bigger role from taking it away from UK or Germany or anyone else.
Can we grab that link? Can we because there was a part in there that actually makes you totally reminded me of. I mean, think about that. They're saying that goes back to exactly what he said before. We're stepping away from the United States. The interview, he did a public interview on, like, I don't know if it was like, it looked like a 60 minutes kind of interview. And he was talking about how he says, everybody needs to get used to this. Like, we need to understand that we're probably going to have to send our troops in. So he's preparing them for war. This is World War III. And it's really going to come down to it very soon. All of the doubters that doubt you that World War III is coming down, it's going to be, there's a European war going on. What event is going to happen that pulls the USA in? That's what ends up happening, is what is the event that pulls the USA in? And I hope it's a smaller event, to be honest, because if it's bigger than Pearl Harbor, that's bad. Is it bigger than 2001? Is it bigger than that? Let's see here. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. And that was only a few nights ago. It's like look at what they're doing. So we'll pull that up here in a second. And then Poland is to spend $2.9 billion on missile equipment from South Korea. Poland's Ministry of National Defense has signed a contract to buy 72 K-239 Chunmu. Is that really what? Chunmu? Chunmu. Multi-barreled missile launchers. I'm sorry, if I got killed by a Chunmu, I would be really pissed. I'd be like, wait, what? What killed him? A Chumlee? What? From South Korea's Hanwha Aerospace for roughly $1.6 billion, the company said in a statement. The deal was inked on April 25th during an official visit by the Polish delegation to South Korea, led by the first Deputy Defense Minister, Beja. Look at all of the money that's moving around. We've got billions and billions. I would say it's going to get into the trillions of dollars getting moved around for this world war. They're spending money like there is no tomorrow, or like they have to preserve tomorrow. So check this out. This is the Macron piece here. This is exactly what I was talking about the other day, and what Dex just mentioned. So look at this. Again, Macron says Europe can no longer rely on the U.S. for its security. French President Emmanuel Macron said the American security umbrella is a thing of the past, and that Europe needs to build its own credible defense strategy if it wants to survive. It's like he's got this relationship with Xi, and we all know that Xi is closely working with Iran, Russia, and Cuba, and Venezuela, and all of these other countries, and it's like, and North Korea. And we're supposed to expect that this guy's like a awesome, good NATO ally, and he doesn't care about China, and he's willing to go to war with them. See, they're taking your attention away from China, and they're making it like, oh yeah, it's all about Russia and Ukraine, and Russia and this. But it's like China's the one that is literally taking over the world. You look at the maps of the trade and everything else that they are trying to surpass the U.S. They're our biggest adversary. They're our biggest competition. And their number one goal, their only goal, is to surpass us. And if you have something like this in a country that's so devoted and has no bureaucratic red tape, there's nothing stopping them from doing the nastiest things. If they wanted to do bio-warfare research, whatever else, they don't have bureaucratic red tape. They don't have to go through a system and get it voted in. Xi says, I want this disturbing experiment done. Do it now. And they do it. Now that's disturbing, but it's also how things get done. They also say, as far as their sustainability and this move to electric, the move to electric is about money. It's not, they don't care about the planet. They care about money, and they care about, say, hey, we've got a lot of this resource. How can we make a whole lot of money off of this resource? and this resource is abundant, how do we switch to something where we can turn this into the new oil? That's what I think is going on. And as far as China's got tons of it. And if that is the future, if we're running out of other stuff, and it's true that the resources are running out, but yet the resource of the future, a huge chunk of it is in China, that's terrifying. But yeah, as far as Macron, the U.S. has two priorities: the U.S. first, and that's legitimate. And then the question of China. It says Europe will not be a geopolitical priority for the decades to come, however strong our alliance. Also, he straight up says they care about themselves, and they're more worried about China. So straight up saying they're focused on China when they should be focused on us. It's like he's literally saying, don't look at China. If China's not a big deal, this is the big deal. People want to know a distraction when they see one. That's it. Dex, what do you think about the equipment? How does this play in? Like Poland and South Korea, you've got all these interweaved webs from country to country doing these deals.
It's all about fueling the conflict. It's clear. It's exactly what it is. I mean, it's not about peace. It's not about bringing it to an end. It's about bringing it to the next level. And so whether it's loading up the NATO front line, because that's going to be next, or loading up the UKR front line, which is happening right now, or getting stuff secured and procured and delivered to the Philippines or Taiwan, for that matter. We're creating the stage for the world and global conflict.
Yeah, it's on its way. Navets says at this rate we might not make it to 2025 to get rid of our weak leaders. Weak men create hard times. What's it? That's taken from that saying. Strong men. It's like a 3-part, right? And then now I want to know what that whole saying is. Christ bless this awesome Foogle family. Amen. Terry Quinn, thank you. And Nevitz, thank you for supporting Independent. Again, we were just thank you from Canada there. Yeah, you probably see it in Canada too. Canada is split into this far left, far right. Every country, it doesn't matter no matter what kind of culture you can think of, they're split into this. We're off to this side, they're off to that side. That means that they're playing the same playbook all over the world. And you go, oh, but it's a totally separate place, total different culture, this and that. But the media companies owned by those places. Worldwide, there's a handful of companies that own even all of those as well. It doesn't matter what language they speak. They're, just like how there's a McDonald's in almost every country and there's a Starbucks in every country. The media in every country goes up to the same kind of wings as well. They hide it better because they do these kind of sneaky ways to hide who the owners are. But you've got, say, if you're watching Brazilian media, guarantee it probably leads up to somebody who owns the same media in this place and in that place and that place. The same machines for these how they pick the prez. It's like all of these machines are used all over the world. It's like these kind of things, it's like there's only a handful of people that are actually in charge. I would think it would be obvious that, I guess when I was younger, I thought it was just a United States thing that you had this this big, left versus right thing, but it's everywhere in the world, and it's made out the same way. And then a NATO country is refusing to give Ukraine its Patriots because it says it needs them for itself. Wow, somebody is actually saying it, right? Why am I giving it to them? We need it. That is what Greece is saying. One of Ukraine's European allies is refusing to hand over Patriot air defense systems because it says it needs them to protect its own airspace. Well, would you look at that? Are they actually thinking of their own country before somebody else's? That's nuts. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, the Prime Minister of Greece, said in an interview with Greek news outlet Ephemerida that his country would not provide Patriots or S-300 missile systems to Ukraine. The reason why Greece has supported Ukraine in various ways, including defense means. But he says, however, from the beginning, we stated that we cannot give out our defense systems that are crucial for our deterrence capabilities. Well, wait, that would make common sense. Like, don't go past a level to where you are now not able to defend yourself. Dex, this is, I guess, Greece with the win, right?
You would think, but it also makes you question why NATO and the other NATO countries are pushing them to diminish their defenses to fortify this other line. That's the real question. Why would they think that the other line is more important than protecting its own resources?
Well, I think they all know that it's going to go past Ukraine, right? It seems like the more and more that it comes out, it seems like that's what they're preparing for.
Yeah, that's sort of the obvious, right? And I think that when you watch and how this all plays out, there's no question that that's what's coming next.
But how would they do that unless they knew it was going to go there? Are they going to trigger Russia to go past Ukraine? Are they going to make sure that Russia goes past Ukraine?
Oh, they can make it happen overnight by signing Ukraine into NATO.
Which was just talked about a few weeks ago. They're basically saying that NATO is going to be in Ukraine. It's just a matter, or in NATO, it's just a matter of time. And that was the red line that everybody agrees will not be passed, or that they will not let go. Sweden and Finland and all of that, those were red lines. But Ukraine was why this started, or at least that's what they say. So if that's true, that's going to be a big one.
That's the backup plan, right? Like, let's push the bear as much as we can, see if we can get them to cross the line. And we can't get them to cross the line, well, then we'll sign them in, and then we're in. Then we're immediately have the right to go forward with a conflict.
Well, it's like, and then who else down here? Does Russia have any other allies down here? Obviously, Romania is building their own trenches along Ukraine's border. You have Poland doing the Dragon's Teeth.
An area in Moldova.
Yeah, so they're gonna. So you have it really kind of broken up. You have these chunks of possible like side wars going on if it all kicks off. And then Poland's always been kind of screwed during all of these conflicts. When Germany in World War I and World War II, it's like in Germany was like, well, we're going to go and we're going to take Poland and everything else to the right. They went all the way in. They're going to take Russia. So it's like every time there's been a conflict, Poland is screwed. Poland always gets the short stick. And then U.S. expected to provide $6 billion to fund long-term weapons contracts for Ukraine. Most people don't agree with it either. The U.S. is expected to announce on Friday it will provide about $6 billion in long-term military aid to Ukraine, U.S. officials said, adding that it will be including much sought-after munitions for the Patriot air defense systems, which, who knows if they get them, because places like Greece are saying, no, we don't want to give them. But what else? You know what else I predict about the Greece situation is somebody's going to step in and say, don't worry, we'll give you, that's the thing. There's not like a new version of the Patriot system. So it's like they're just giving away one of their crucial defense systems, right? Is there anything newer than the Patriot that works better than the Patriot? Because I wonder if they're going to say, yeah, we'll give it to Ukraine, but we need something in return, or are they going to get 5th generation fighters or something out of it, right? Wonder if that's what's going to happen next. Go ahead, Dex.
I was going to say the announcement did come out, and it is exactly what they speculated here. So it is Patriot missiles, $6 billion. Patriot missile system. So while Greece is holding on to theirs, the U.S. is more than happy to send billions of dollars more of Patriots, and it's on the way.
Yeah, just wait until all this stuff that's going down in Panama. They're building bridges down here right? You've got all the stuff going on with our southern border. You've got weird things. The Mexican government is doing some weird things, and there's been some weird connections there. All the folks that have been coming in through the south have to go through Mexico, through Guatemala, through Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama. They all come through this area. In the Darien Gap, this is important, and people forget about these things really quick. I know you guys don't, though. In the Darien Gap, there is a column being built, and nobody knows who's funding it. It's a column big enough for tanks. It's a full-on bridge. They're making a professional bridge in the middle of the woods. I mean, in the middle of the jungle. It's crazy. Why? It's like when they come in with tanks and load up, and all of a sudden we've got tanks in Mexico being spotted or something like that. It's like, oh, well, where are our Patriot systems for defense against missiles being launched from Mexico? Oh, they're in Ukraine. We have no problem giving this money away for somebody else. And then Ukraine pulled its Abrams tanks from the front due to Russian drone tactics, U.S. officials say. Before we get into that, if you don't have extra food, it should be pretty clear by now. You should have some. Go over and check out Patriot Supply. This is our affordable route for that. This is our recommendation for affordable freeze-dried food that you can get bulk in for a very low price. As far as freeze-dried food goes, it's extremely expensive. This is one of the best options because you get the most bang for your buck. You get food that not only you can survive, but you can thrive off of. And it's going to be able to last for 25 years. All you have to do is add water or cook in sauce, and then it brings back almost all of the flavor, all of the nutrients, everything else. So in 5 years, in the last 3 or 4 years, it's tripled in price. If food happens like that, or if we have hyperinflation with regular food, you could pop this open and use it. But if it continues where freeze-dried food is on this spike, in 5 years from now, even if it quadruples in price, you'll still have 20 years left on the shelf. You'll have a certain amount. You know how much food you have. You know how much time you have. And you'll still have 20 years left to use it. So I can only imagine where food prices are going to be in 25 years if they've gone up this much in just a couple. But yeah, that's why folks look at it as an investment. It's not like you're going to keep these for 15 years and then resell them. But it's much better. It's a personal investment. It's like buying it for yourself. In 15 years, you won't have to spend $120 for a 12-pack of eggs. You can go in and eat your freeze-dried food instead. Hopefully we never get to that point. But go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, they have a 3-month kit, huge sales, always on the 1 month and the 3 month. But you can also get smaller kits like the 72-hour kit or a week kit. So go over that. If you want to do just a little bit at a time, they do that as well, and you can get it shipped to you really fast. So marfooglenews.com/prep. You don't need a code, just use the link. And then Ukraine pulled its Abrams tanks from the front because of what they're doing with drones. Apparently, Ukraine has withdrawn its U.S.-supplied Abrams tanks from the front lines in the face of Russian drone warfare tactics. The U.S. defense officials told the AP, one of the officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity, which happens on a daily basis, said swarms of drones are flying over Ukraine meant that there isn't open ground that you can just drive across without fear of detection. So Russia has them pinned down. They can't even take tanks across. They can't drive tanks through. Those tanks will be destroyed. What does that say? Where your tanks are just getting taken out the second that they're going somewhere. That means they're not doing exactly good. Christopher Grady, the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, confirmed the decision to move the tanks away from the front. We just send them all this money in the form of Abrams tanks, one of our best weapons. And, of course, these things are getting taken out left and right by drone swarms. What does it also tell you about what our future war is going to look like? Drone swarms are the future, that's for sure. When you think about the way the fight has evolved, massed armor in an environment where unmanned aerial systems are ubiquitous can be at risk. So you could have 1,000, 30,000 tanks. These drones, which do not risk any life, can just drive through and go boom and blow them the heck up. The U.S. agreed to send 31 M1A1 Abrams to Ukraine in January of last year after months of Ukraine asking for advanced weaponry to counter Russia's invasion. Now they're basically having to pull these things back because the second they do, they're going to be destroyed. It's like I wonder how it really is there and how much stuff that we're sending billion-dollar items and then they just get destroyed like that. Once they lose all of that, then what happens? Once they can't pull people, we just covered this last night. I think it was last night or the night before, but they're trying to grab people from other countries that dodged the draft in Ukraine, and they're trying to get at least 152,000 people that dodged the draft, and their next step is they are trying to grab those people and force them to come back to fight. That shows me that they're not in a good spot. Their average soldier age, I believe we confirmed it was like something like 43 or 41 years old. That means all their young people are gone. And that means that, the youngest is like in their 30s and all of these conscripted people, they're all just going away left and right. And now they're grabbing people that. What about what happens after the 150,000 that they conscripted? What happens when they're dead? Who steps in? Or does Ukraine just lose? Weapons can't fight themselves. There has to be somebody driving the tanks. There has to be somebody flying the jets. I guess they've lost 5 Abrams tanks in recent months. I don't think it says the actual price of these things, but they are pricey. Yeah. So Dex, it makes you think like how we've fought wars forever. It's like it all has to change. Tanks are no good if you have these little tiny cheap drones that can blow them up. I mean,
yeah, certainly. Look, this is a testing ground for all intents and purposes. When you look at the West and even Russia, they're both like sort of testing each other out, and they're learning from one another. Look at all of the jamming that Russia has been able to do and learn and advance their electronic warfare against our technology. Now, mind you, it's a little bit of our older technology, and then here in this case with drones and the tanks, same thing happening. So, they're advancing or they're learning against us. Now, we're doing the same. I got to believe that there's a lot that we have learned from the types of attacks that have happened and the types of equipment that has come through. But at the end of the day, that's really what it is. Both sides are not necessarily putting their best foot forward, but at the same time, they're trying to learn as much as they can and or test new technology out in these scenarios so they can have them battle ready for the big conflict that's coming.
Wings and Wags Patriot filled in the blank. Thank you. Wings and Wags Patriot says the fourth turning. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. That's great. Thank you, Wings and Wags. That's exactly what I was trying to remember. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. What part of that do you think we're in right now? And then the U.S. is now allowed to seize Russian state assets. How would that work? I have a question. What do they consider Russian state assets? And then could they accuse you of getting it from somebody who's Russian, or literally just claim somebody named Steve is secretly a Russian agent, and then whatever he gave you is now a Russian asset? Just wondered. But the big U.S. aid package for Ukraine and other allies that President JB signed Wednesday also allows the administration to seize Russian state assets located in the U.S. and use them for the benefit of Kiev. That could mean another $5 billion in assistance for Ukraine coming from Russian central bank holdings that have already been frozen in the United States. The seizures would be carried out under provisions of the REPO Act, short for Rebuilding Economic Prosperity and Opportunity for Ukrainians Act, which I've never even heard of that. We never covered that, did we? I feel like I've heard the REPO Act, but it sounds like
it's part of that bill.
Yeah, that's insanity. But it's not likely that the U.S. will seize assets without an agreement from other members of the group of 7 nations and the European Union. How do you think Russia's going to react to that? So, I mean, when you have like, I think they kind of step back even from the stuff with Iran, and they would do this to Russia. I mean, it's almost like they're like, hey, is there a book with all of the listed red lines that they have? Let's cross every one of them. Go ahead.
Yeah, Russia Putin already said a couple days ago, or maybe last week, if they do this, or when this happens, that's going to be one of the major red lines, and it'll have severe effects. But look, here's the other thing we got to take into consideration. What does this mean to the rest of the world? The rest of the world, until this divide has started to build, the rest of the world was built off of the U.S. dollar. They thrived off of the U.S. dollar. They invested in the U.S. dollar. They have assets in our country. Every other country does. If all of a sudden they see what happens to Russia could happen to them, are they going to feel like, that's a safe bet? Or are they going to think, maybe I should not have my assets in the U.S. because if ever I get on the bad side, or if maybe I'm associated with them, it's not just going to get frozen or sanctioned, it's going to actually be completely taken away and not even given back to me at a later time, which is what's happening. That's never really happened before for the most part. So, one of the biggest holders of U.S. Treasuries is China. I mean, what if they decide, you know what? I think we're out of here, and they just dump the U.S. dollar. That could happen.
Because think about this. If China takes Taiwan, are we going to freeze China's assets, and then all of a sudden we're going to say, you know what, we're going to give it to Greece. We're going to give it to Ukraine. We're going to give it to South Korea because of what they're dealing with North Korea. The frozen assets are immobilized and can't be accessed by Moscow, but they still belong to Russia. This is money that they put into the country. Russia, I'm sure nobody cares if we take Russia's money. Most people's opinion is, yeah, go spend that. But other countries, which we are already tiptoeing on World War III with, you do that to them. Yeah, you could say F you to China. But with all that money that just all of a sudden gets, boom, pulled out, we are done. Like, think about how much, how tied in to China the U.S. is as far as everything here. Everything here. The reason why we had these kind of huge, almost a technological revolution was because China was manufacturing things there. The reason why, if you looked at the, I posted pictures of this old, it was like a Sears catalog, but it wasn't that old. It was like from a local, like, kind of variety store, kind of like a Home Depot type thing, but one of those stores that used to have everything. It's like a Sears, and it had TVs and fishing gear and weapons and jewelry, and it had everything. It's like a Fred Meyer type thing. The prices were oddly like almost the same, and it was like from 1980 or 82 or something like that. And it's because like a plate set, was $30-$40. It's like the same price now. And even though it's inflated all that, it was actually that much back then. But those were plates, or if it was a plate set of 4 plates or whatever, it was like fine china. If you got a toaster for $40, it was made from stainless steel, and it was something that would last for 60 years. Now you get it. The cheaper, you can get one for $15, but it's made, for $2 in China. All of these things, this entire market, the electronics market especially, if you look at how cheap electronics are now, that would go out the window immediately. Even with some of the other countries that manufacture, there's just all of the money and all of the stuff that we are tied in with China with, all of that would leave in a second. That would be scary. Go ahead, Deck.
America for the longest time was the strongest, most powerful, and some will probably say it still is today, but was the strongest, most powerful in the world. And they didn't call our president the leader of the free world for nothing, right? If you wanted to take the country down, this is one way to do it. You take them down a notch financially. You take them down a notch in power. And what is the goal of doing that? What is the goal of taking America from this high position and bringing it down to a low position on par or even below other countries around the world? Does that bring about a change? Does that change something in the financial world? Does that allow other things to happen? But it almost looks like when you do these types of things, it's like if you were to say, how could you possibly take America and knock it off its throne? Well, here's a perfectly good way of doing it. Wow.
And if you look at it, who has the money to do the things that are questioned? Like in just a few years ago when JB got in, right? What happened there? Just say that the crazies out there are right. And it was this huge thing that there was all this stuff going on at the very top, and it was coordinated across the country, because that's people's excuse. Like, oh yeah, sure, everybody was, working together on it. Sure. Say hypothetically those people are right. That would take a whole lot of money. That would take a lot of people being paid off. Who has the money to do that kind of thing? Who has the kind of money to say hypothetical country A pays money for politicians in country B to screw things up in their country, or to say make sure that their favored person gets into charge? How do you do that? Well, it takes a lot of money. It takes everybody getting greased, everybody's pockets getting lined. And it makes me think of a comment on Joe Rogan. There was who was it on Joe Rogan? Somebody was talking about Nancy, Miss Pelosi, right? This isn't a political thing because this is just a fact. She has like a net worth of over $100 million. Oh no, it was $250 million. It was $250 million, right? $250 million. Her salary was like $289,000 or $239,000. And that's what she's made for so ever many years. Even if you invest that well, how do you get from that over 50 years is so much, one something million, 10 million, 20 million, whatever. How do you get from that to $250 million? Now, we all know that too, there's been a lot of stories that came out about how, like, right before CV did this or they released this, all of a sudden all of these politicians were able to dump their stock or to buy stock. We know about those. But how else would you get absolutely filthy rich? And if it's not on paper, if it's not your salary money, then what is it? Speaking fees? I'm sure that's what they say. Or is it because they, sold a piece of artwork or something? I don't know. Like, how do they explain that? And then when you see that the people at that level, even they don't declare things, and it's like they get in trouble for it, it's like, then what is actually going on up there? But you see what's happening right now with us, and it's like, wow, we are being taken down, it seems like, at every level of every part of our country. How do people not see that? I don't see how you couldn't. So what is the end all goal? Makes you think, why is there, and it's happening in multiple countries too. I wonder why there's a Paris ghost city in in China, right? After everything's nuked, then certain people can be the mayor of the new city, right? They get a spot at the table. And then what was the other ghost city? There was actually a ghost city that's favored by our current prez. It's a ski city, but it's not Aspen. It's another one. What was that American city that they have a ghost city in China? Do you remember? It's called something weird. It's like Cow's Tail or something. It's a ski city. It's a resort town, but it's like kind of like an Aspen, Colorado, but it's not. They have a ghost city of that, an exact replica in China, and it makes you think, like, what's our long term? What is actually going to happen here? And what would be the cons? Like, what would be the pushback from people? Like, well, if I do this, then I'd be screwing over my own country. Well, don't worry about that. We'll take care of you. We'll make sure you have something that's just like it. I know it's a crazy thought. And then Russia arrests Forbes reporter over social media posts on the Bucha massacre. Rights groups say hundreds of Russians have been arrested, fined, and jailed, criticizing Vlad's offensive on UKR under tough military censorship laws. Russian authorities have particularly targeted people for comments on Bucha, the Kiev suburb where Russian troops have been accused of taking the lives of many civilians. Moscow has rejected those charges and accused Kiev and the West of staging it, of people that have perished and testimonies of people getting treated very badly. Sergei Menzivov was detained and being held in temporary detention center. It says he faces up to 10 years in prison under charges of spreading false information, Buban said. In short, for reposting a publication about the events in Bucha on a Telegram channel, he added. Huh. I wonder what people are actually going to believe. Did the events go down how they say it went down in Western media? Or is it how it went down in how Russia said? Or is it a mix of both? But this guy's getting put in jail. I wonder if they have evidence. I wonder if they have proof that it was fake. It makes you wonder. Dex, it's not like, so they have images and stuff. Have you seen some of the behind the scenes? We do know that there are kind of wag the dog videos that have been caught, right? Behind the scenes of like kids crying and things like that.
Yeah, you can't trust any of the media that comes out of there, or any of the images that come out of there. Same thing with even on the other side in UKR. It's all controlled. So you have to, you sort of have to kind of look at all sides and try to even look at social and try to decide, okay, well, what's the truth? But even on the social side, it's full of ganda, because that's been taken over by bots and armies of social armies, so to speak, literally in China and others that will drive any narrative they want to drive.
Well, think about with AI.
He's not the only reporter to be arrested. I mean, we've still got Evan Gershkovich, that Wall Street Journal reporter. He's still being detained there. So there's something like 34 journalists that have been detained in the last year.
Well, think about when AI takes over, the wag the dog situations. Think about how bad those are going to get when. So right now, if somebody made a fake video and the 5 people were there and say they had a kid where the kid just lost his parents and something this, and they show the kid, well then if somebody was, sly enough, they could go, wait, this kid is this kid's name and he has both of his parents, and they could bust that as fake, right? But you wouldn't be able to do that if it's an AI generated person, and if somebody's only evidence is the video, they go to try to find that person and that person doesn't exist. It's like, how are things going to be when AI videos are rampant? I mean, they're already using them, I'm sure. But one thing I see is like everybody is posting videos of these scenes, and I'm like, why are there 40,000 scenes from both sides of people holding, wee ones in their hands? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess maybe it's a different culture. But if my kid died, I would be like, get that camera out of my face. But they say that all of these people are trying to do it for the point, like, you got to see this. You got to see this atrocity that's happening so it can change for the future. I guess if I lost one of my kids, I don't think I could. I don't think I could even consider it. I'd be like, get out of my face, like, But there's like 1,000 of those videos, and you wonder if all of them are real. I'm sure most people are saying, I wonder if any of them are real. But things like that can quickly change people's opinions. It can make people absolutely devoted to a cause if they show that. With AI, it's going to be real scary because they could make whatever they want. They don't have restrictions at the government. It's not going to give you a notice and say, sorry, we can't do this because it involves a known celebrity and we can't make an AI thing related to that. It's not going to give them saying, well, this is around a violent subject and this seems like a topic that is controversial, so we can't do this. They don't have that. They'll be able to AI video, Sora video, whatever the heck they want. And then China's version of Neuralink unveiled at Tech Forum. If we needed some more great news today, a Chinese state-backed company on Thursday unveiled a brain chip similar to the technology developed by Elon Musk's startup Neuralink. This is the kind of thing, Dex, I was just talking about this, like, think about the bureaucratic red tape. We probably had to study it on monkeys and do all of this stuff here. Do you think they could have just taken straight people out of prison and done this? They could beat us in any kind of human testing type of scenario because they don't have to go through red tape, which is messed up. But think about how that could work to their advantage of how quickly they could do something like a brain chip.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Now they are publicly stating they've only done it with monkeys, but they certainly, they have also publicly stated that they're not in human trial yet. But there's no reason to believe that they couldn't have done that, and there's no reason to believe that they wouldn't have done that, given some of the past experiments and things that they've done with those people in incarceration or being suppressed in other ways. So certainly interesting. But nonetheless, they say they have it controlling a robotic arm, a monkey controlling a robotic arm through its thoughts. It's very much like Elon's technology, at least that's how it's been presented, although they never used Neuralink's name, so I'm sure that was intentional. And of course, the company, the controlling shareholder of the company, so the company's name is Jinshada Neurotechnology. They say they independently developed this, but the controlling shareholder of that is a Beijing municipal government state asset regulator. So basically, it's owned by the country of China, or the CCP.
So it's pretty easy to say it is a straight up CCP funded thing. It's got direct ties with the CCP. And then Baltimore High School, anything big like that that's how it works there. And then Baltimore High School athletic director used AI to create fake racist audio of principal. This is going to be rampant. I mean, this is already happening all over the place. People do it as jokes, but now you can pretty much do anything. But you also won't be able to believe if somebody has some sort of audio scandal. You can no longer bring. I think in court they can't do audio in some sort, or unless it has some sort of verification. They have to have experts come in. All this, but as far as even with video. In the future, you're not going to be able to. How is video going to be used as evidence? And this brings it to an even scarier part. So something like this, how do you stop this? How does the government step in and go, well, now we can't tell what's real? It's what Nikki Haley talked about, an ID for every person who uses online. This is where this is headed. When stuff like this becomes rampant and you can't believe a video that you're seeing or audio that you're seeing because it's so readily available, everybody has the technology to do it, what happens then? Well, they're going to say the only way we're going to be able to do this is if everybody has essentially a barcode, and that video that's produced has to be attached to somebody's barcode. Like the mark, straight up the mark. Like there's no other way to monitor this kind of stuff in the future when this becomes so common, where you could make a video of, say, a missile hitting, the Capitol or something. If it looks incredibly real to the point where you cannot tell the difference, how are you going to decipher what's fake and what's real? How would you be able to use a video in court? Like, courts allow video evidence, right? In the future, they're probably not going to. They can't. They wouldn't be able to. I'm sure they're still doing it now, but how long is that going to last? And scandals. How are you going to believe, say your favorite celebrity or something all of a sudden has a scandal and is caught on tape doing something? You won't be able to know if it's actually them or if it's real. People are going to question everything. Heck, the whole, what's his name? O'Keefe, like videos like that. People will be able to fake that in the future. People could fake it right now, but it's going to get to the point in the next couple of years where it's going to be indecipherable. You won't have any mistakes like a sixth finger on a hand or a third leg walks or something. That's where it's headed. If it's at where it's at right now, think about in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years. That's a scary thought. But he ended up using it for bad. The principal, Eric Ellsworth, was removed from his position at Pikesville High School after the school district began investigating an audio clip that was circulated among staff and social media in January, where it appeared Eisworth made comments against certain color people and certain types of people. The 3-month probe, which involved local police and the FBI, concluded that the audio was forged using AI tools by Dazon Darian, the athletic director at the school, according to the Baltimore chief of police. Think about that. Like, this is one of the teachers or one of the people under him, like, says, I hate that principal, and made a fake clip. And I wonder how they ended up tracking down how he did it, and how, if he just continued saying, this is fake, it's not me, then what steps did the police take to then track down and figure that out? Dex, think about that. You're mad at your coworker, you could literally make something saying he's, saying these comments. And it worked, at least until the guy got caught.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it got him so far as to get him fired, or potentially, fired, or I guess he got his job back. But seriously, this is the kind of stuff that's going on, and the technology and what they can do with AI, and the replication, I guess, that can be made is pretty darn scary. And we'll see this more and more. I think what you're also going to see is more and more of this showing up in cases. So how did they figure it out? I mean, maybe in this case, they were able to investigate and find it on his computer and realize that he was using the tool and left a bunch of, breadcrumbs, if you want to call them that, behind. So it was easy for them to figure out. Maybe it wasn't. But I think, it will be good if the tools that are out there were able to put signatures in them so that you can determine what is AI and what isn't. But I'm sure that will be fine for the good tools, but the bad guys will always use nefarious tools that won't put signatures like that in.
What are the signatures? I wonder if it's like a tone that you can only see on recognizing the audio.
It'd be some sort of watermark, right? Whether it's visual or non-visual, it can be embedded into the code or into the object, whatever it may be, whether it's an image, a video, or a piece of audio. It could be put in there. Yeah. Like
Beats, they'll have a small audio that says, and it's so often that you can't listen to it. It's like, GG Beats, yeah. You're GG Beats. It's like, even if you
they could do it. They could do it digitally where you won't hear any of that though, or see it too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What was it? The Secret Service back in the day, they've embedded serial number tracking in every single printer, right? Like they can literally fingerprint laser printers and color laser printers because they all have a unique signature in them that they can figure out where it was printed from. And they did that. They had that built originally because of
people printing money.
Yeah, printing money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and you don't see that. Like people use printers all day long in their business. You don't notice it, but it's there.
So weird. And then before we talk about Anthony Blinken, just a reminder: if you take a medication every day that's important, highly recommend going over and checking Jace out. You can get a board-certified doctor to actually handle any kind of needs, as far as if you need a supply of antibiotics, you can get something like a Jace case, or you can get a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. Make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/Jace to learn more. But it's an awesome system, and of course, if everything hits the fan, of course you're not going to be able to get gas, water, whatever else. But something that people don't think about is what happens when you are down to your last month of medication and SHTF happens, or you're down to 3 days and SHTF happens. If you have an extra year supply, that's pretty freaking awesome. Not to mention you can rotate it. Once you get the year, then it comes, so you can actually rotate your regular medicines in, and you will always have a year's supply of your medicine. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jace. Make sure to use the code MARF not only to save, but of course to save our channel as well. So thank you guys. You can also get things like albuterol added into the Jace case, so make sure to go check out the available add-ons. All right, and then Anthony car salesman Blinken meets with China President Xi as the U.S. and China spar over bilateral and global issues. I wonder what was really said here as far as what did they really talk about in this meeting. Obviously it's just speculation of what actually went down at this meeting. But they met Friday with the Chinese President Xi Jinping and senior Chinese officials, stressing the importance of, quote, responsibly managing the differences between the United States and China as the two sides butted heads over a number of contentious bilateral, regional, and global issues. Going back to what I was just talking about, like, think about if this was more like once they closed the door, they're like, oh, Anthony, sit down. Oh, we're about to have some beers. Come on over here. So our next plan is, and actually we're going to need you to wear this monkey suit real quick. Can you go dance for us while we play poker? Thank you, Anthony. All right, turn on the music. We're going to party. Make it about 3 hours so they think we did some important stuff. And then send them back to give our message to JB. Could be something like that. Or they could have actually went over some hard issues and Anthony Blinken was like, well, we really need you guys to step up and stop being jerks. Stop spraying people. What do you think really happened in this meeting? I have a lot of doubt that they got anywhere. Both countries take one step after another of not disconnecting like in an FU way, disconnecting in like, oh, we're not going to need the U.S. very soon. China is working directly with Russia and North Korea and other countries, even Iran. They are trying to make it so where if there is something that they are importing from the U.S., that they can go, oh, well, we get a lot of soy from the U.S. Okay, well, Russia actually has a place where they can grow soy. So how about we trade land? And then Russia's like, well, yeah, I import this from the U.S. Can I actually get that from you? Oh, we can't grow that here, but we can grow it in China. They've traded lands, like literally traded farmland so they could grow things that the U.S. is currently exporting out to them. What does that say? They're trying to cut us out of the middle. At the same time as all of this division is going on, as far as our infrastructure is flailing about, they've been hacked into our critical infrastructure for a very long time. They say that they're straight up just waiting for the perfect time. And, this is FBI saying it. And people in our community, they're very right to question everything. And they're like, I don't know, it's FBI saying it, so it's probably fake. But what if there are good people in all of these agencies? Like, not everybody is bad. There's bad people, and then there's the good people that are seeing the obvious signs, that are saying things. And I just think about it, like, what if they really are trying to warn us, and because we just don't believe anything anymore, that it will just get ignored? But meanwhile, there probably is a huge chunk of really good people that are like, hey, this is about to happen. They've been hiding. They said that they're waiting for the perfect time to strike. And by strike, I mean they're in all of our critical infrastructure. I would think the perfect time is when they take Taiwan. And I think they would coordinate with their extremely close allies like Russia, Iran and North Korea. They're all looking like they're preparing for their own war, including Venezuela and Guyana. It's almost like Venezuela, what's-his-face was at the table when they were talking about it, like, hey, can I jump in on this? Like, Guyana's a jerk. Can I take them? Is that cool? Like, if I'm in this club, can I just take my neighbor? Okay, cool. All right, sounds good. But what are we going to do when all this goes down? What about the U.S. dollar? Like, I've got a bunch of U.S. dollars. Oh, don't worry, buddy. We got BRICS. Well, you can just jump in on this with us. Jump in on BRICS. You don't have to deal with the CIA and the NSA and all that, and you don't have to worry about them listening to you. Well, currently we use their internet and all their underwater sea cables. Oh, don't worry, we got that too. We'll actually build our own. Yeah, we're in the process of building underwater sea cables around the planet, so you can get it through China. You don't have to go through those guys. We have competitive rates. We'll do it for a fourth of the cost. And we won't listen in and watch your video cameras. Sound like a deal? I mean, it almost seems like the most obvious answer is the right answer here. That they're all teaming up and they're trying to dismantle the U.S. and they have paid people. But that's just my opinion. And I hope I'm absolutely wrong. They're coming up with every way that they can cut the U.S. out and smash us from replacing our currency or coming up with some, way to deal with us without it. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think they talked about? We also did a video on this over at Marfoogle News, so make sure to go check that out. I'd love it if you guys watched that video and shared it out with your friends and family. And, of course, everybody has their own opinion about what's going on right now. I would love to hear yours down below. Angelicit says, I love my Trilicit and the Foogle fam. Well, Trilicit, thank you, and says, how's it going? Hey, Trilicit and Angelicit, thank you. And then Wings and Wags Patriot, Terry Quinn, and Nevitz, thank you so much. Over on D-Live, thank you, Kimbria, Poco Loco, T16, thank you for following. Michigan Travis T, thank you. Kimbria, Poco Loco, Scooby-Doo Do-Right, thank you so much. And I did notice you hosted yesterday, so thank you. And, of course, everyone else that joined us today. Valerie Green, thank you for subscribing. Team Alaska, thank you for subscribing. Rinda Jane, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. And everyone else who made it to the show, including our wonderful mods. You can pay them back by going to marfooglenews.com/friends and subscribing. They all have awesome channels, so make sure to go check them out. Dex, thank you for today, and I appreciate everything you do.
Absolutely, brother. Much love and great job.
And give us your opinions down below. If you're watching us from work, thank you for listening, and I appreciate you guys. We will see you on the next one. Make sure to tune into Marfoogle News over the weekend. Again, that's where we would put our breaking news alerts. Love you guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shh. It's a shh. It's a shoutro.